everybody. Hope you're having a great day. Welcome back to HR Are You Listening? I'm your host, Marta Fernandez, an HR Generalist. And today we have a very special person for me. His name is Andrew Stoute. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you so much for having me, Marta. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I said you're a very special guest because I would say that you are a very unique person to meet in the world. You have supported me since the moment that you have known that I'm working on this project of the podcast. Mm-hmm. And so I think you are someone that people should definitely look into and check you out and see the work that you provide to this world and the community. I'm not going to say any more. So, Andrew, could you please introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, Marta. I'm truly honored to be here today. It's incredible to be part of your growing network and to make a space and have these important conversations. And I'm proud to be part of it. As you mentioned, my name is Andrew Stoute, and I come from a background of HR and leadership. I currently serve as a board member for a nonprofit called Face with Grace. And I'm the host of my own podcast called Let's Be Diverse. I also help business owners find podcast guest opportunities and turn them into meaningful moments of connection and opportunity.
So just like us, we met, we connected, and we're making meaningful content for the audience. And this is actually why I say it's very special, because it's very rare that people embrace a community, sense of community belonging, but also is willing to use resources to grow business projects. So guys, I want you to pay attention. He has a lot of wisdom and I'm really excited for him to start. So can you tell us your story today?
So my story today, Marta, is earlier in my career, I worked in a fast-paced company where deadlines were tight and expectations were even tighter. I was eager to prove myself, so I found myself volunteering to do extra projects and found myself staying late. And I had a key, so I'd lock up myself at the end of the day. One day, my manager called me into the office, not to reprimand me, but just to check in. And he said, "You're doing such a great job, but I noticed that you haven't been yourself lately. What's going on?" And that moment caught me completely off guard because I didn't expect it. I thought, usually it's like when you go to school and you get called to the principal's office. It's not normally for a good reason. It's not to say you're doing so great. It's usually for a bad reason. So I was thrown for a loop when he said that to me. And I said to him, no one's ever asked me that before in a work setting. So I told him the truth, said I was exhausted and I was afraid of falling behind. And instead of dismissing my concerns, he thanked me for my honesty and worked with me to adjust my workload. So he encouraged me to take a few mental health days and to check in with myself more regularly. So that meant a lot because it was a great lesson for me, because there's a lot of situations where your leader will ask you how things are going, but they're kind of occupied or they're heading to either a meeting or they have something going on. So they're kind of asking you in passing. And this was my very first opportunity to experience this, where actually somebody who I don't really know outside of the office, but yet they were still taking time to hear my concerns and to actually listen, not be typing on a computer while I was talking, actually looking at me face to face and listening to what I had to say. So it was a memorable experience for me.
Wow. I have a lot of questions. My head goes like, when people start telling their stories like this, it's very powerful. And I'm very grateful that you had experienced this, because not everybody has the opportunity to encounter someone that genuinely cares for them. Mm-hmm. And to a point where they say to you like, yo, Andrew, sir, you need to take a step back. It's very rare, especially in the work culture where we are normally in a toxic environment, that we don't even know that we're in a toxic environment. So that says a lot from that person. But I want to focus first on you. Mm-hmm. Was Andrew building his career? Or were you already like very ambitious, I need to prove myself, or more of, I just have to hustle until my body was shutting down? Like, Who was Andrew at that point in time?
So I would say that Andrew was a combination of starting his career. And then there was part of it that I wanted to really make an impression. It was a new job, so it was only like a few months in. But also it was some project that I was given and some things that I was added on to the other stuff that I was doing. So I had a little bit of imposter syndrome as well, because I wanted to make sure, A, that I was doing it, and B, I was a little bit nervous if he was to say, well, I'm going to get somebody else to do it, or I'm going to get somebody to work with you to help you. I was kind of worried that they were going to be thinking, well, he can't get the job done when I need it to get done. So I was a little bit nervous about that. But as I've grown older in my career, I've learned that situation was a good situation, because it's not that he was going to take the work away. He wanted to lessen the burden. And if that meant giving me somebody as a helper to work on that, it wasn't a detriment, or it wasn't a knock in my face to say you can't get the job done. It was like, you can get some help and it's still going to get the job done. And you're still going to be offered to get other stuff done as well. You're going to be given other projects as well. So
I was going to mention that, because when we're young and when we're trying to prove ourselves, and maybe even to like the managers, especially you said it's a new job, when someone says, let me offer you assistance or let me find someone to help you, we see it as a negative. You're taking away my time to shine. And how do you respond to that? It seems like you were a bit hesitant to even get that support. You knew that you have the capabilities to provide the support to that project and make it happen. But at the same time, it sounds like you were having struggles with the part of, well, I don't need anybody. I can do it myself. What was your thought when introducing just the idea? Was it more you, or it was more of just, I don't want to work with anybody?
I'd say it was more me, because I wanted to prove myself to the manager and to the company that I could do these tasks and get them done on time. So it was a little bit of a struggle for me, but I'd say the moment that when we had that conversation, then I think it went away, because he showed that there was care, compassion, and he knew that I could get the job done, but he just wanted to make sure that nothing else was going to happen to me, or that he was going to lose me for whatever reason. So that just told me that there was a lot of care and compassion there, and that meant a lot to me. And I felt after that, the burden or the worry lessened quite considerably, because I knew that not only he cared, but everybody else around me cared as well.
Yeah. I just want to go back, because you also said that your manager said that you are not yourself. What he meant with that, when he said to you, hey, Andrew, come over, let's talk. And he said to you, like, I'm not seeing you. You're not being yourself. What did he meant with that?
So I think anybody that knows me, I'm a fun, energetic, outgoing, sociable person. I love to kid around. I love to joke around with people. And I guess he was seeing that I wasn't being like that I was coming in, starting right away, going to my desk and just plugging away, which is fine. But he just saw there's something not right. I think when he asked me that right away, my worry and everything just went away, because wow, this guy cares about me. He's not just my boss. He's not just the owner. He actually cares about me as a person, not just as an employee, but as a person. So that really meant a lot to me. And I would say that my style and my work, and not that I wasn't putting the work in before, but I was working way harder and gave more to the company and gave my heart and soul a little bit more that day, because it just opened up my heart a little bit more to the organization, just because they showed a care and compassion in me.
And yet it seems like once you had this conversation with this manager, yet you were giving your 110%, but without hurting yourself, like
Right.
mentally or emotional or in a general wellness perspective, which is
Correct.
interesting because I really want to talk about that in a second. But okay, now that we know who is Andrew and what was his thought process, now let's look into the manager. How was, before this conversation, how was your relationship with your manager? Did you had one-on-ones? Did he was a well-trained manager? It seems he did because clearly he saw something that was off and he went and directly reached out to you. So what was the sense of this manager? Like, do you have trust with him? Because he came up to you and said to you, hey, let's talk. But did not trust him or do you fear him when you said like this workload is really getting a toll on me? Because sometimes employees might like a manager, but they fear if I say, hey, I cannot handle this or my plate's too full, I need to slow down, they feel that the manager might not see them in the same eyes. I mean, I'm very grateful that your manager was the one who reached out to you because he saw something happening. But yeah, talk to me a little bit more about the manager and the manager dynamics with you.
So the manager had very good dynamics with not just me, but everybody. So he's the type of manager that was a hands-on manager, not a micromanager, but a hands-on manager, wanting to know what was going on, how everybody was doing. He would make his regular rounds every morning when he came in. Good morning. How are you? How's everything going? Anything that I can help you out with today? Okay, just let me know. Send me a message and we can chat. So that chat that we had when he said to me, let's come and talk, it wasn't the actual first time, but it was just, I guess, just the kind of setting was a little bit different because the other talks were more like, how's everything going? What's going on? If it was like a Monday, oh, you told me you were doing this weekend. How did that go? Or how was the birthday party? So he kind of paid attention to what everybody was doing and how everybody was feeling.
Yeah.
So then when I had the conversation with them, what opened my eyes to that was that sometimes managers will do that or leaders, they will ask a question, they'll ask how people are doing. But I think that day, it really showed me that he really did have care and compassion, that it wasn't just an act, let's just say. Like he actually really was sympathetic. And I could see it in his face that there was a little bit of concern that he had for me. And so it was good to have that conversation because I wanted to ease, it was good to ease his thoughts on me and his worry about me. And then it was good for me because I was eased about my job and that I'm doing a good job. I didn't have to worry. And when you first start a job, sometimes, am I doing a good job? Do they like the job that I'm doing? Are they happy with everything that's going on? So that just told me everything that was going good, that he was happy. And from that day forward, I was able to come in a little bit more of ease and I was able to be myself again. And I like to talk about a safe work environment. That made it a safe work environment for me again.
Yeah. And it kind of resonate the aspect of there's one moment in time when you're a new employee and there's something. It doesn't have to be like a crazy thing, but the manager just shows its compassion and their genuinity that they care for their employees. And that makes a huge difference. And that's why I talk about trust, because sometimes when you feel comfortable with the manager, I'm working, like I have nothing against him, but I wouldn't necessarily go say to him, hey, my plate is full or I overdid it. I thought I had the time and energy. Clearly I didn't. And just saying that, especially when you're in a new job role, how you said you want to show up yourself, you want to show up for the company that they're giving you that opportunity. And you don't want to mess it up in a certain way, right? And so I understand that. And I agree with you with the sense of there's a before and after. Because when that moment hits with your manager, that personal connection, it clicks. Now the work environment feels, okay, I'm safe. I don't need to pretend to be an extra superhero. I don't need to pretend that I am, a superhuman. And so now come back to the idea of like, it seems like your manager had proper training or the company that you were in had proper training. And then my question to you would be now, did you think your manager was properly trained? what was it that made him him? I mean, clearly he definitely went beyond to check on you like a daily basis, but he saw something. He knew when Andrew was Andrew, and then he knew when Andrew was trying to be a superhero. So what was it the company's support for the managers? Because it seems that that company in particular did, or at least this particular manager had those leadership skills that not everybody tends to have.
So I would say, yes, they had some regular leadership training on a regular basis. I handled his calendar, which was one of the tasks that I had. So I saw that he had a lot of training and he was in a lot of situations where he was doing some training. But the one thing that I did notice about him was that some leaders will say they have an open door policy, but he really sincerely had an open door policy because it was very rare that his office door was closed. So I understand that there are situations where you have to close your door because you have to have a conversation. I totally get that. However, the more often you can keep your door open, it makes it more likely that people are going to approach you. So when your door is closed, people are very timid to go and knock on the door and, or are you busy? Can I come in? Whereas if it's open, they're more like, oh, he's open to having a conversation. He's open to talking or hearing what I have to say. So he's more approachable.
Yeah. And so I would assume this particular manager in your career, especially when you were starting your early career, play a big factor what type of manager you think, or mold your mindset or set expectations, I would say probably. What type of good manager should look like in a healthy work environment. Yep. Now, I want to touch the conversation because you mentioned early safety, health, and burnout. I want to have a conversation about this because even though your manager was able to assist you and provide you the safety net to go out and just recover. Hey, Andrew, go ahead and recover. You need some time to heal your mental and emotional state, probably also physical, because when you go work and spend a lot of hours, your body like, we're not doing this. So what is Andrew wellness at that point in time? Was it eye-opening that someone called on that?
I think it's...
what was thoughts?
I'd say it was more eye-opening because in that situation, I didn't realize that something could be wrong or that people were seeing me in a different way and that they are sensing that something was wrong. So you don't even realize it until that person mentions it. And then it opens up your eyes. And then I start to think about, not that I was rude with anybody, but just situations, conversations that I had. You know, maybe I was a little bit short with a couple of coworkers. Maybe they came to see me and I wasn't myself. And so you're just kind of thinking back of those situations. And then you're wondering, okay, yeah, I was like that. And now I can think back and I could see how people would look at me in that way or envision or wonder what's going to happen. So yeah, I think that instance really opened my eyes to where I was being perceived and then what we could do to make sure that situation is not going to happen again. But again, it just made it so much easier after the conversation. And I guess a weight was lifted off my shoulders because I realized, okay, I'm good. I don't have to worry. It's not like, am I going to stop doing my work? No, I'm still going to keep doing my work, but they're happy with the work and the stuff that I'm doing. Just keep going.
This is a thought that I think about a lot. And I had a conversation with someone about this. Like, how do you set boundaries? Like when you're young and you're trying to not only impress your bosses or your manager, but impress yourself. Like, I got it. How do you set boundaries? It seems like you didn't have boundaries at the beginning because you overworked yourself to a point where someone had to call you out, which is honestly very rare because not everybody is willing to say, yo, slow down. You don't need to lead the world. It's very rare. So how do you went about that? Like when you were starting, do you set boundaries? What was Andrew's in terms of boundaries and work? Is it all in until I die? Or is it more like until I feel appreciated? Because now that I'm thinking about your story, once you felt or once you heard those words of appreciation and validation of like, Andrew, we're happy with you. Andrew, you're doing extremely, extremely well. It's okay to take a break, or it's okay. You realize that, okay, I don't need to go the 145 miles per hour, and I can go to 100 and they'll be happy with me. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, like I think because your mindset, you're so like go, 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 go. And I felt like after that, my mindset changed and I was able to finish stuff a lot quicker. And I wasn't staying as often after hours. And I think because I was a little bit more relaxed, I was able to get the job done a lot quicker than I did before. So I was worrying, and I guess the worrying made me make mistakes or what have you, because you think you're invincible at some point, especially when you're a little bit younger. You think you're invincible. You think nothing's gonna happen. Now that I'm older, I've learned, well, through that story, but also continuing throughout my career, that we have to know like when to shut it down at the end of the day, when to cut the cord on the day and say, okay, that's it. I'm done. You have to know what your body is telling you. And so now I have a certain timetable of when I want to cut the day, and I do it. And I've been pretty good at that for the last couple of years, cutting my day when it's supposed to be done. And I felt very good about it. And there's been no worry like back in that story.
That's interesting. It's interesting that it sounds very simple, the story, but it showed you so much. It showed you a lot about yourself, like the importance of taking care of yourself, wellness, about what it looks to have a healthy work environment, a healthy manager that genuinely cares. I'm just thinking like all these things come to my mind. Just in a simple story, one simple action of calling someone to their, to the office, hey, let's have a chat, be a very vulnerable conversation too, right? Because that's a very vulnerable conversation. Let you to understand a bit more about yourself, but also the most important, which not everybody gets the opportunity, what it means to have a good manager. And that's why I was asking about the training, because a lot of times people think managers don't need continuously training to improve their skills. That skill that he had, it could be him genuinely, intrinsically good in being a good manager, but also if you provide some trainings to your managers, I am someone who believes in you give them more tools, they will be able to have those vulnerable conversations, because there's ways to go about it, right? And it seems that your manager was very candid about it, to a point where after that conversation, you were able to produce way more, and your mental and emotional stress went down, where you learn also how to set boundaries. Like, hey, like I don't need to stay, till nighttime. Mm-hmm. And Andrew, what is it that you think that moment in time shape you as of today? Like what made this story particular to be like, this is a story that shaped me? Because a lot of times stories like this one for me, it seems that it shaped you in a way that there's a before and after Andrew. So what made this story shape you?
So I would say how it shaped me is, as you know me and anybody that knows me, I talk about this all the time, and it's rapport building. And I think what happened was when I was that first part where I was a little bit worried and staying extra hours and stressed, I got away from what made me who I was. And what made me who I was rapport building. And I got away from that because I was so worried about everything else. And once I had that conversation, it kind of got me back to rapport building. And that's probably the early stages of rapport building for me. And it kind of taught me, and it's helped me grow into that rapport building space even more over the years. And as I've gotten older and the importance of it. And I don't think that I think it's something that people don't realize the importance of. And when you do build rapport or make it part of your lifestyle and your career, it truly makes a huge difference.
Can you explain, because that's a very particular terminology, to the audience what means rapport building?
So rapport building is building a community of individuals who are like-minded and can be there for many things, either collaboration, support, someone to turn to. So there's many different aspects to it. But when you've built rapport with somebody and you have that support system, then the experiences and the ways that, or the things that can happen throughout it are over the top. It's insurmountable what can develop through that. So just a perfect example here, would be a great example would be the two of us, Marta. We met on LinkedIn. I reached out to you. We had a conversation over the phone. We've continued to keep in touch. And now we are collaborating and we've started working together on certain things. And now you've had me on as a guest on your podcast. That is just, I can't even explain to you any more than the importance and how important that is. And some people understand that, some people don't. And it's okay if you don't. But for me, it's super important and it's something that I live by and something that I'm going to continue to live by.
That's beautiful. And that's actually true. And that's a great actual example, live example, because we're doing it right now in real time.
We are.
So now, yeah, you're right. And I didn't think about this before. Meanwhile, you're telling me your story, my brain goes to like multiple thoughts and trying to get, the meat of it. And you're right. Your manager was a report builder. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that word existed, but I'm going to make it here.
Rapport builder. Yeah, he definitely was.
He was kind of like a coach, and it kind of aligns to the values that you're bringing to the table, mm-hmm. right? You talk a lot about belonging. You talk a lot about community. You talk a lot about like lifting up people and supporting, because when we work together and when we care for each other, magical things happen, right? And this story, there's two sides of it. I feel like the importance of what it means to care for your neighbor, for your employee, for your coworker, and how that directly and indirectly affects your work experience. And you said earlier, sometimes when you went back and you looked, oh yeah, I was a little bit snappy. No, I didn't have to be snappy, but I was snappy, no? But you also learn how to navigate those moments with your coworkers and build kind of that trust with them, right? The other aspect of this story that I feel like I want to focus before we end up this video is health. And the reason why is because a lot of times when we're starting our careers, we don't take care of ourselves. I mean, we don't take care in the sense of we're trying to eat the world. We're trying to put as much of responsibilities in our plate to a point that we're no longer able to digest that amount of workload. And then we're so ashamed that we don't want to even go speak up to our manager about it. Like, yo, I made a mistake. And so in your experience, and coming from this particular experience, because yours is a very positive, how would you say that Andrew felt with the workload and his relationship with his wellness, Andrew taking care of himself, and that in any shape and form, right? Mm-hmm. Like just what was that dynamic?
So what he taught me was, they always say that, or people always say that managers manage and leaders lead. But he was the first person that was able to do both. The tasks, he managed everybody, what they were doing, how things were going, but he also led. He was also that person that you could turn to for growth or for experience or for training. If you wanted to learn something, he was the first one to guide you, to show you what to do in order to learn that. So he taught you a lot of lessons as well. And the other lessons that he taught was taking care of your health and taking care of you and making sure that, because for him, you're no help to him or the organization if you're not there or if you can't go in because you're not well. So he really took it under his wing to make sure that everybody was taken care of, that they had everything that they needed. They had all the things and all the tools that they had to grow in their career, but also all the tools to know when things were going a little bit intense or that you needed help, and to not be afraid to turn to a coworker or to another coworker and say, hey, listen, I need a little bit of help on this. Can you give me a hand? I have this task that I need to do. Can we have a meeting later and can I get your help on it? So you weren't afraid to do that with him. Whereas in other instances or in other parts of my career, I was maybe afraid to do that because there was no trust. I didn't know if I could trust people. There, I could fully trust anyone and everyone there. And that was very, very important to me.
Wow. It sounds very special and definitely clearly sets the tone of what type of man you are and leader you are today. Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that you said, he was someone who managed but also lead at the same time. That's beautiful. And I'm impressed that you even acknowledge that difference between management with leading, but you could have both. They could coexist in the same role. Mm-hmm. So last but not least, what was your thought process when he said to you, go take some days off? You need to recover. I mean, do you even know the word burned out at that point in time? And if that was the case, what do you do to recover? I don't know.
Well, first thought was, I knew what being burned out was, but I didn't realize that was what I was doing to myself. The second thing is that because there was such trust with him and the organization, I felt that I trusted that I could take a couple of days off and just be me and do my own thing and do the things that fulfilled me and made me happy and put a smile on my face and relaxed me. So I was able to do that, which was super important. In many other organizations that I worked at, I may not have had that trust to step away because I would worry about what would come when I got back or how I was treated when I got back, that I was put down or what have you. But there I had that trust factor to say, okay, I can step away. And sure, when I got back, everything was normal. Everyone asked, how was my 2 days off? What did I do? And you look great. You look like you're very well relaxed. Great to have you back. And, let me know if there's anything that you need from me. So it was a very good easing back into the situation, which was very different than any others. And many of the other listeners, they may not have that situation. They may have gone back to work thinking and wondering, what am I going to go back to, right? So that was very important to me, and knowing that I could trust.
It just came to my head very quickly regarding to this time off they took to take care of yourself. I mean, now they have a terminology called wellness days, mm-hmm. Where you take some days off for your own personal care. Yep. I'm not sure if that back in your time. Yeah. I mean, back when this happened, what was the company in terms? I'm just thinking about in terms of HR and the department and how this was presented to you. It was like, hey, take some days off. This is your PTO, or this is for the people don't know, PTO means paid time off? Or was it more like, here, we're going to give you some leave in the realms of wellness or sick leave? How it was presented, or it was not even presented, just more like, hey, Andrew, go take some days. We'll figure out later. What was it?
Yeah, so it wasn't vacation days. I did have some personal days with that company. I had never taken any personal days. So they just said, listen, we have plenty of personal days that you can use. Just so I was able to take a couple of personal days, so it didn't affect my vacation, didn't affect anything else. I didn't affect my sick days. It was just personal days that I was able to take. Wow. And it was really nice to have and nice to figure out. And again, it was just easy. It was
Wow.
easy for me to just go and do what I needed to do and relax.
That is very impressive. So this company is a very unicorn for me because not only you have a great manager providing healthy work environment, avoiding toxic traits, but also the company giving you this personal days, which does not affect your vacations, does not affect your sick leave. That is very generous. A lot of times people would say, yo, yeah, you could go home. And then by the time you come back, your vacation days are like short. You're like, what happened? I thought this was, no, that's part of your vacation. You took some days off. I think the transparency in that transaction that you had from the moment that your manager sit down to you and talk to you about, and the moment that your manager said to you, hey, to have some days, to the time that you went back to work, there's full-on transparency in the whole procedure that you went through. And not only transparency in terms of the company, making sure that everything goes smoothly for you, no hesitation, no concerns, no stress added, basically. But also when you come back, you have full transparency with your coworkers. This community or sense of belonging that people have brought in that environment has definitely made your experience, I would say, so profound and beautiful.
Right.
Very impressed.
Yeah, it was very nice because most of the time you'd feel maybe nervous about going back to work. But this was an instance where I did not feel worried at all about going back to work. I actually was a little excited to get to work and get back at it and to see my coworkers and again, to continue to build on the relationships that I was building before I was taking time off. So it was really, I was looking forward to it. Whereas maybe some other jobs in the past, I may not have been looking forward to it. I might have been like, oh my God, now I got to go back there today. And
yeah. And you know what? In terms of the building rapport and building that community that you said, I just want to say that it seems like everybody in that company had the same values or similar mindset, which plays a big factor because it makes it easy for you to also reach out to other people. And it seems that your manager, and I want to emphasize this, when managers really promote and lead with values of compassion, empathy, sense of belonging, and respect, and mostly just protecting their employees for their own sake, right? Like Andrew, like just go home and take a step back, plays a big factor how you experience work. Just how Andrew said, I was excited to go back. I was not nervous. Nobody wants to go back to work and feel nervous or uncomfortable. But this manager is a great example of why it is important to build rapport. It is important to take care of your employees. Because when employees go back, they show up. They put their whole heart and they're so passionate of what they do, right? And the community they have created. So wrapping up this, Andrew, give me some takeaways for this story. What is it that you want our audience to learn from this?
I would say that the one thing that I would probably say is every work situation is different. So if you were working for, let's just say, for example, you're working for an organization and it doesn't have the values, it's not a fun place to work, the environment is not safe. My advice would be if you move on to another organization, I would say don't assume that it's going to be the same situation. Give it a little bit of time to work there and figure out and see how things are going to be with that company. Because a lot of times we go to a situation and we say, oh, it's like that here, so it's always going to be like that in my work life. And it's not always going to be like that. There's going to be some situations where you're going to be in a great environment, and there's going to be some times where it's not going to be the greatest environment. So we just have to not assume each situation is going to be the same.
I would say, or I would want to add that being mindful of your boundaries, right? Yep. I want to add that because if you go and change to a new job, right, you probably want to learn how to set boundaries. Not like working extra hard, or if that's who you are and that's how you want to show up, that's fine.
Yep.
But setting boundaries plays a big factor of how you experience your work environment. Okay, there's two things I want people to know about this story. A, the importance of having a manager who is well trained, but also has values about empathy, compassion, and a rapport builder. It clearly shows how it transcends to another level, making their coworkers and the work environment feel safe. So if you are someone who sees that in a manager right now, if you're working, acknowledge that. They will feel appreciated. Just how you want to be appreciated and valued, managers also want to feel appreciated and valued. And just take a moment to reflect, what type of manager do you have? And just how Andrew say, there is a difference between managing and leading, and there could be both. You could be a manager and you could also lead. And the other thing that I want to hone is the idea that performing, it doesn't mean good, or excel at performance doesn't mean that you have to burn yourself out. It doesn't mean working 24, 48 hours, waking up at 5 in the morning and leave at work at 9 p.m. That doesn't mean performance. That's just building yourself to fail, because your body's going to crash, your mental state is going to crash, and your emotional state is going to crash. When you rest, like Andrew did, and he even says it, when you take time to rest, to fully recover mentally, emotionally, and physically, it helps you thrive at work, right? And Andrew said, before, I could have made more mistakes. I was working like crazy, but I was probably making more mistakes. After my break, he said, hey, I was working faster. That's the fact. So take that in consideration. Sometimes it's not about the amount of work that you do. Sometimes your body just needs to rest. And that is important to be able to succeed in life and in your work environment in general. So those are my two intakes. I don't know if that makes sense. Andrew, what do you think?
I totally agree with you 100%. Those are great takeaways. And I'm glad that you mentioned those two. I'm glad you mentioned the managers manage and leaders lead. I'm glad you reiterated that. And also the boundaries part. It is important to definitely have boundaries. And I think when you have boundaries, it's going to make life so much easier for you. And I believe a good manager will help you set those boundaries as well. A good manager and a good leader, they will help you to set those boundaries. Make sure that you realize how important setting those boundaries are.
Yeah. Well, you heard that, guys, from Andrew. He knows what's up, okay, guys? So you should listen to him. Okay, guys, that's all for us. We appreciate you. Thank you so much, Andrew, for being around here and just sharing your story. At least for me, was very meaningful. This is a good story, which I love because it's rare. Not everybody has those unicorn moments, I call them, at work. So thank you. Thank you, audience, for having us today. I really hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, thank you for everything. Bye, guys.